This is a legacy fight. This is a generational fight, that will be talked about for years.
It's gonna be one of my best victories in my career.
September 13th.
Las Vegas, free on Netflix.
Canelo Álvarez defends his undisputed super middleweight titles against Terence Crawford at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. But this isn't just another title defense. Crawford is attempting something that has never been accomplished in the four-belt era, becoming undisputed champion in 3 different weight classes. He's already conquered lightweight at 135 pounds and welterweight at 147. Now at 37 years old, potentially in his final professional fight, he's jumping up to 168 pounds to challenge the most dominant super middleweight of this generation. Crawford enters this fight undefeated at 41-0. Canelo sits at 63-2 and hasn't lost at super middleweight since moving up to the division. One man's perfect record meets another man's weight class supremacy. The winner doesn't just take home belts. They stake a claim as the defining fighter of this era and potentially secure a place among the greatest pound-for-pound boxers in history. This is what happens when 2 of boxing's elite finally collide, and the stakes couldn't be higher for both men. When we talk about undisputed championships in 3 weight classes, we're discussing territory that no male boxer has ever reached in the modern 4-belt era. To be undisputed means holding all 4 major sanctioning body titles simultaneously: the WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO. Crawford has already done this at lightweight, where he unified all the belts at 135 pounds. Now he's targeting 168 pounds. The closest any fighter has come to this achievement was Roberto Duran, who held undisputed titles at lightweight and welterweight, but that was in the 3-belt era when the IBF didn't exist. Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns also held undisputed status in 2 divisions, but again, before the modern 4-belt system. What Crawford is attempting requires not just winning fights, but completely cleaning out 3 separate weight classes against the very best competition each division has to offer. The physical demands alone make this nearly impossible. Your body fundamentally changes as you add weight, your power dynamics shift, your speed can diminish, and your ability to take punishment alters. Crawford isn't just chasing history here, he's trying to rewrite what we thought was possible in professional boxing. Let's break down the numbers. Crawford's last fight was at welterweight, 147 pounds. He's now moving up to super middleweight at 168 pounds. That's a 21-pound jump, which might not sound massive, but in boxing terms, it's enormous. To put this in perspective, most fighters struggle moving up just 1 weight class, which is typically 7 to 10 pounds. Crawford is essentially skipping the super welterweight division entirely and jumping straight into territory where he'll be facing naturally bigger, stronger men. When you add that much weight, everything changes. Your power-to-weight ratio shifts. Your hand speed can decrease. Most critically, your ability to absorb punishment gets tested in ways you've never experienced. Crawford has never been dropped or seriously hurt, but he's never faced the kind of punching power that natural super middleweights possess. Look at the historical examples. Oscar De La Hoya moved up successfully from welterweight to super welterweight and had some success, but when he jumped further up, he struggled. Roy Jones Jr. had success moving up from middleweight to light heavyweight, but his frame and athleticism were exceptional. The fighters who fail at major weight jumps usually fail because they can't handle the power, or their own offensive weapons lose effectiveness. Crawford's entire fighting style is built on timing, precision, and counterpunching. The question becomes whether those skills translate when you're facing men who are naturally 15 to 20 pounds heavier on fight night, with longer reaches and more natural punching power at this weight class. Crawford's biggest advantage is his switch hitting ability and his ring IQ. He can shift from orthodox to southpaw mid-combination, creating angles that most fighters never see. Against Canelo, this could be crucial because Canelo has historically had more trouble with southpaws. Look at his close fights with Erislandy Lara and Austin Trout, both southpaws who gave him problems with awkward angles. Crawford also has exceptional timing as a counterpuncher. He lets his opponents lead, then punishes them coming in. But here's the problem. Canelo isn't your typical aggressive Mexican fighter. He's evolved into a patient, defensive-minded boxer who uses a tight shell defense and picks his spots carefully. Canelo's advantages are more straightforward but potentially devastating. He's got legitimate one-punch knockout power at this weight, something he's proven against fighters like Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders. His bodywork is among the best in boxing, Those liver shots and uppercuts to the solar plexus could be especially effective against a smaller-framed opponent. Canelo also has an underrated jab and excellent distance management. He knows how to cut off the ring and force fighters into exchanges where his size and power advantages come into play. The key tactical question is whether Crawford can stay on the outside and use movement and angles to avoid Canelo's power shots, or if Canelo can close the distance and turn this into a phone booth fight. Crawford's never faced someone who combines Canelo's defensive responsibility with his offensive power. Meanwhile, Canelo has struggled at times with slick, mobile southpaws, but he's never faced one with Crawford's level of adaptability and ring intelligence. At 37 years old, Crawford is fighting father time as much as he's fighting Canelo. This could very well be his final professional bout. Turki Al-Alshik, the Saudi official promoting the fight, has already suggested this might be Crawford's last dance. That adds enormous pressure because there's no room for error, no chance to come back and try again. His perfect 41-0 record isn't just a number, it represents an entire career without defeat, something that becomes exponentially harder to maintain as you age and face elite competition. A loss here doesn't just cost him the chance at historic 3-division undisputed status, it potentially defines how he's remembered. Does he become the great welterweight who bit off more than he could chew, or does he become the fighter who achieved the impossible? For Canelo at 35, the stakes are different but equally significant. He's already established himself as the king of super middleweight, but beating an undefeated elite fighter like Crawford would silence any remaining critics who claim he cherry-picks opponents or avoids the toughest fights. This would be his signature win at 168 pounds, better than his victories over Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, or even the aging Gennady Golovkin. A loss, however, would be devastating to his legacy. Losing to a smaller, older fighter who's never fought at this weight would raise serious questions about whether his dominance at super middleweight was against diminished competition. Both men have everything to lose and everything to gain, but the ticking clock makes this Crawford's last shot at immortality. The early rounds heavily favor Crawford. He's historically a slow starter who uses the first 3 to 4 rounds to download his opponent's timing and tendencies. Against a patient fighter like Canelo, this could work perfectly. Crawford's best path to victory is establishing his jab, staying mobile, and using his switch hitting to create confusion early before Canelo finds his range. The middle rounds, rounds 4 through 8, become the danger zone for Crawford. This is where Canelo typically does his best work. He's figured out his opponent's patterns and starts timing his power shots. Canelo's body attack becomes critical here. Those liver shots and uppercuts to the solar plexus could be devastating against Crawford's smaller frame. If Crawford starts slowing down from body punishment, Canelo can close the show. The late rounds present an interesting dynamic. Crawford has never been in a grueling fight at this weight, so his conditioning at 168 pounds is completely unknown. But if he survives the middle rounds and the fight goes long, his superior boxing IQ and adaptability could take over. Canelo sometimes drops off in rounds 10, 11, and 12, especially if he's been forcing the action. The X factors that could swing this fight. Crawford's punch resistance at the higher weight. We simply don't know how his chin holds up against super middleweight power. Canelo's activity level. If he fights too cautiously, he plays right into Crawford's counterpunching style. And Crawford's power translation, if his shots don't earn Canelo's respect early, Canelo will walk through them and impose his will. The fighter who can impose their preferred pace and distance wins this fight. One factor we can't ignore is the officiating. Tom Taylor will referee with judges Tim Cheatham, Max DeLuca, and Steve Weisfeld scoring the fight. This matters because both fighters have history with questionable scorecards. Crawford has been on the wrong end of close decisions early in his career, and while he's been winning more decisively lately, a close fight at a higher weight class could go either way on the cards. Canelo's situation is more complex. His first fight with Gennady Golovkin was scored a controversial draw, and his decision win over Arislandi Lara was heavily disputed. When you're the bigger name fighting in Las Vegas, those close rounds often go your way. If this fight is competitive and goes the distance, Crawford might need to win clearly to get the decision. He can't rely on winning 7 or 8 close rounds and hoping the judges see it his way. This adds another layer of pressure for Crawford. Not only does he need to overcome the size disadvantage, he likely needs to do it convincingly. A close, technical boxing match where Crawford slightly outboxes Canelo might not be enough on the scorecards. He may need to score knockdowns or win rounds decisively to secure the victory and make history. This is the most significant cross-divisional challenge we've seen in years, and it's happening between two fighters at the absolute peak of their respective divisions. Crawford is attempting something that's never been done because it shouldn't be possible. The physical limitations of moving up 21 pounds against an elite, natural super middleweight should be insurmountable. But Crawford's entire career has been built on proving conventional wisdom wrong. He's the most technically sound and adaptable fighter of his generation, and if anyone can overcome the size disadvantage through pure skill, it's him. For Canelo, this represents the chance to cement his status as the best fighter of this era. A win over an undefeated, all-time great like Crawford would place him in the conversation with the sport's legends. But a loss would be career-altering, something his resume might never recover from. The winner of this fight doesn't just take home belts or bragging rights. They establish themselves as the defining boxer of the 2020s and potentially secure a place among the pound-for-pound greatest of all time. When you strip away all the promotional noise, this comes down to one simple question. Can exceptional skill overcome natural physical advantages at the highest level of professional boxing? September 13th, we get our answer. So who do you think has more to overcome on September 13th? Is Crawford's skill and ring IQ enough to neutralize Canelo's size and power advantage? Or does the 21-pound weight jump prove too much even for an undefeated legend? Drop your predictions in the comments below. I want to hear your breakdown of how this fight plays out. And if you want more in-depth boxing analysis like this, hit that subscribe button because we're covering every major fight with the same technical breakdown you just watched. I'll see you in the next one.